welcome to the 20th episode of the Huddy Hui. We've been going for well over a year now, and it's our 20th episode, and it's fantastic having you joining us on the show tonight. And as always, the birthday boy from yesterday is here, Adam Julian. Happy birthday. What, you're 70 now, aren't you?
Well, something like that. And I tell you, this relationship has lasted longer than most of them.
Well, Adam, that's good to know. Anyway, so Adam, what are we talking about on the show tonight?
Well, we're going to Paremata-Plimmerton on Saturday, specifically Ngāti Tawa Domain, where the local side out there take on Tawa. That'll be a tough game for Paremata-Plimmerton. Tawa are a very strong side, won for the first time last Saturday. Paremata-Plimmerton have yet to register a win, but we'll take a lot of optimism from the way they finished against unbeaten Upper Hutt. It was 28-3 after a quarter of the game. It finished 45-22. So Paremata-Plimmerton, a decent side in pursuit of opening their Swindale Shield account. A lot of history at Paremata-Plimmerton, some of which we'll allude to later. And then we're going to talk about the quadrangular tournament involving 4 Presbyterian schools in the gentrified suburbs of Strathmore.
Well, the Presbyterian quad, there were 2 exciting games there yesterday and plenty of drama. So we'll talk about that later on in the Huddy Hui. But our guest tonight is the utility back or fullback for Paremata-Plimmerton. He's fresh out of St. Pat's Town. He was first 15 there for the last 2 to 3 years. And Khya Wilson is our guest tonight. Khya, thank you for coming on the Huddy Hui. Tell us how you have found the adjustment from playing first 15 rugby and going into the club rugby scene with Paremata-Plimmerton.
Yeah, kia ora, Brad. Thanks for having me on. It's definitely a big shift. The contact, the speed, and definitely the size of the talent and the size of the actual players has upped its game since leaving St. Pat's Town last year.
You had a serious injury for much of last year. Explain what happened and what was involved with your recovery.
So unfortunately in the first pre-season game of last year for first 15, I had 2 breaks in the same hand. So unfortunately that put me out for about 10 to 12 weeks. So the remainder of the season was pretty much just out there for fun. But recovery for me was just more mentally than physically. I had to get my mind in the right space for when my hand did come right and just come out firing when I got the chance.
Tell us where you play, and if those of us who haven't seen a lot of you were to watch you, what would we look out for?
So currently playing fullback, but being put as a utility at Paremata-Plimmerton. Definitely one thing I pride myself on is my speed. So when I'm through the gap, what I see is the try line, and hopefully my legs can get me there.
Tell us about your favourite try.
Favourite try that I've scored or that I've seen?
That you've scored and possibly seen.
Favourite try that I've scored. Favourite try probably Wellington under 16s. Would have been my second year. Had an intercept on our own 5-metre line, beat 3 players in the space of 90 metres, and then just a 50-metre run away from there with no one in front of me.
And how did that Wellington under 16 team fare overall in the tournament that you were playing?
So that year I was fortunate enough to be captain, as our captain had been injured, and we had a close game with Hawke's Bay early on in the week, but the Wellington unit pulled through in the final. Still remember that it was 40 points to 22 to Wellington. So yeah.
So Khya, of course, your father, Justin Wilson, coaches Paremata-Plimmerton, and you've been around the tracks with your father for a long time, been involved on the sidelines for a while. Tell us the importance of your father and your rugby, him as a coach, and being lured out to Paremata-Plimmerton for the season.
Obviously dad or coach has been a big influence in my rugby life so far. Obviously still young, but he's been there through thick and thin and just wants me to be the best player I can. And so him not so much dragging me, but sort of giving me that little influence to come out to Paremata was more so that I could get out and be noticed rather than being in a top tier team playing Colts or senior ones.
And of course, Paremata-Plimmerton, it's a good community club. It's got a large number of junior players. At the senior level, they do compete, but they do find it tough. But it's got a real good sort of community feel every time Adam and I go out there. Tell us about the community there at Paremata-Plimmerton.
It's pretty special. I've been a part of 2 clubs prior to Paremata, and I'd say that Paremata has a strong community and family connection out there. They definitely love getting everyone involved, and me being a young one, playing my first home game there, even the youngsters waiting there just to say good game and good luck. It's great to have a good, strong community within the club.
That haircut is definitely an attempt to get recognised too, Khya. Now tell us about some of the senior guys at Paremata-Plimmerton. Who are they? Where do they play? And what have they taught you about rugby in the short time that you've been out of St Pat's Town?
James Corcoran, or as we call him, Smokey, our big lock. Definitely a leader by voice and by action. He's not one to give up so easily, and he just loves fighting till that last whistle.
Now that paraphernalia in the background is distinctly Māori, and I understand that Māori is a big part of your personality, and you're in a pretty significant representative side that represented the Māori. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so, definitely embrace my Māoritanga on both my mum and dad's side. I was fortunate enough to be selected to go and trial for the New Zealand Māori under-18s and have a week of focusing our wairua and whakawhanaungatanga, or our relationships with each other. Māori rugby in New Zealand has definitely started to grow, and it's where I see myself in the future, is with the Māori side of rugby, and just trying to embrace my culture as much as I can, all the way through school and through club.
That's fantastic. And of course, outside of rugby, Khya, you're pretty good athletics too. You're a good sprinter and hurdler. So tell us about your athletics career and also your involvement in the Khya Shield, which is a massive secondary school competition between Whanau College, the 2 St Pat's and Rangatahi.
Yeah, so at the bright old age of about 11, I started to take up athletics. It was sort of just a summertime thing, and then my body decided I wanted to grow, and then results just started coming my way, and I started training, and then ended up becoming a 100, 200 and high jumper. So was fortunate enough to captain St Pat's Town for Khya through years 12, 13. Was a 100 and 200 back-to-back sprint champion year 10 and 11. And yeah, it was just definitely a privilege to lead the St Pat's Town team through Khya.
What about the first 15 last year? Very powerful side. Obviously, you were absent for much of the season. Were you disappointed not to win with a New Zealand secondary school's front rower and the pack and envy of many others?
Yeah, last year was a confusing year for myself. Obviously, I was very frustrated that I couldn't be out there, but yeah, definitely with the team on paper that year, definitely should have been in the final at least.
And so one more question for you, Khya. Tawa this weekend, they're a powerhouse club. What do you know about them, and why will you win?
Tawa, yeah, obviously always a big side through the forwards and through the backs. Powerful, but I guess it's just with the team, we've been working on shooting from the go, and we haven't done that yet. So we're just looking for a good first half, and then hopefully we can just pack on the points in the second half, which is what we've been doing. But we'll just have to wait and see what kind of attitude Tawa will bring, and hopefully we bring a better one on Saturday.
Well, Khya, it'll be fantastic to watch you play on Saturday out there at Ngāti Toa Domain. Go well against Tawa and give them a good shot.
Kia ora. Thank you, boys. Ngā mihi.
Well, Adam, fantastic interview there with Khya Wilson, a real promising young man with a promising rugby career, but his Māoridom is really important to him.
He's a very fine young man, Khya Wilson. Not only was he an athlete and a rugby player at St Pat's Town, but a real leader in their college. And there was a lot of adversity among his cohort when young Xavier Reedy died, and Khya was at the forefront of many of the tributes to young Xavier, and you can see why. He speaks very genuinely. He's got a lot of talent, and he's very loyal to his father and family and his teammates. Paremata-Plimmerton was one of many clubs vying for Khya's services. They have struggled to win games in recent times. Someone in search of perhaps more optimism might have gone elsewhere, but Khya doing the hard yards at Paremata-Plimmerton, and hopefully to be rewarded later on, because they have a lot of good positive things going on out there at Ngāti Toa Domain. The junior numbers are through the roof. The women's team is back, and they've got a new clubhouse, which will be fantastic to witness.
Well, yeah, we haven't been there for 2 years, Adam. The last game we broadcast out there was Old Boys University against Paremata-Plimmerton, and that day Parramatta put in a good fight against Old Boys University. Only just lost that game. But the clubhouse there, it's one of the few grounds in Wellington where the clubhouse is pretty much right smack bang next to the number one field. And be really looking forward to seeing those renovated club rooms.
Absolutely, and looking forward to seeing some of the history out there at Paremata-Plimmerton. Ken Gray, the great All Black prop, is one of their famous alumni. And my research of women's rugby has uncovered some history that I never knew about. But Paremata-Plimmerton actually won the very first senior women's competition in 1990. And here is an article here celebrating the achievement of that side. Remarkably, 18 of the 25 girls in the roster had never played rugby before, yet they played 13 games, won them all, and outscored the opposition 493 to 54. And later in 1990, they had this enormous festival in Christchurch, which was organised by women, and there were 62 games and a number of club, provincial and international sides. And Paremata-Plimmerton, in the highly competitive club tyranny, played 5 games and made the final, lost to the Crusaderettes from Canterbury, who were essentially the New Zealand team. And 4 of the Paremata-Plimmerton players were selected for New Zealand, including Mel Ngātai, who won a World Cup as a front rower in 2006. She was a winger as a 14-year-old in that tournament in 1990. She scored 5 tries in 4 games. And also Erica Reri played in that tournament. Erica's husband, John, coached the Paremata-Plimmerton team in 1990. And Erica was a very respected prop in the early days of women's rugby. Went to the 1991 World Cup and started all 3 games. And there's a debate at the moment about the naming of women's trophies in Wellington women's rugby. Erica Reri being applied one of the names would be a good shot, because this Paremata-Plimmerton team contributed 4 New Zealand players to just the second national side ever picked. And then a lot of those players shifted across to Norse, who for 24 years became the powerhouse of the game and helped establish what it is today.
Fascinating history, Adam, about Paremata-Plimmerton and their women's program. And it's interesting to note that their women's team this year are 2 from 2 in the second division. The first division's only got, 4 teams. And at Paremata-Plimmerton, they beat Old Boys University women 48 points to 5. and also beat Paniki's women's team 67-10. So the women's program out there at Paremata-Plimmerton is really going off quite well.
That's it. And it's born from a very prestigious history of success. 1990 Paremata-Plimmerton team were the first Wellington side to win the club championship. At present, Auries are the reigning title holders, and on Saturday they thrashed North by 66-5. Aisha Letiainga out of form. She only scored 4 tries.
Oh, unbelievable.
I've seen her score 8. Come on, Aisha, get on with it.
Oh no, she's should be scoring a lot more often, and still good to get 4 tries in a game, more than what you and I would ever get. But anyway, Adam, yesterday we were out at Scots College for the Presbyterian First 15 Quad Tournament, and the games were streamed on Sideline.live in partnership with Huddy Sports. We didn't commentate the game, but we saw some impressive talent out there.
So the annual Presbyterian Quadrangular involves 4 schools: St Kentigern's College from Auckland, St Andrews College from Christchurch, Scots College from Wellington, and Lindisfarne College from Hastings. Interestingly, coached in part by former All Black captain Tane Randall. His son is in the Lindisfarne team. And in the first game, St Kentigern's played St Andrews and won by 45-21. St Andrews, the reigning Christchurch champions, given a hiding by St Kentigern's, who have won the 1A championship 5 times in the last decade. And there was a real talent playing at centre, and his name was Xavier Taili. He scored 2 tries, and he's the nephew of Hello Boys Mara stalwart Dan Parvey, who's one of my favourite personalities in Wellington. Xavier scored 2 brilliant tries, both from past halfway, and the second one where he juggled the ball momentarily, hung on grimly, and then fended off his opposite with complete disdain and scampered clear was a real showcase of talent. Unfortunately, a melee erupted in the second half, and St Kentigern's lost their blindside flanker. St Andrews rallied briefly, but the Auckland Presbyterians were far too powerful in the end. Another 2 tries made it. Of the day was the Scots Lindisfarne match. Scots won by 36-17 after it was 26-5 at halftime. Lindisfarne very dogged in the forwards, but didn't really have the ammunition to consistently threaten Scots. And Scots his name is Arnold.
Seems your headphones are playing up, Adam. We can't get it dropping in and out there. Yeah.
Anyhow, I'll
That's better.
continue. Eduardo Paiano, what a beautiful player he is. He's from Italy, as is that signal. And he was in rampant form yesterday, cut open the Lindisfarne defence like smithereens repeatedly, and he is a serious talent, only diminutive in height, but muscular, and his footwork and his audacity reminded me of Buxton Popoleti. I don't want to get too carried away, but young Paiano, one to watch this year in the Wellington secondary school scene.
Well, it was interesting. Scott's game yesterday, in the first half, they could have, the way they were playing, they left a lot of tries out there. They could have won the first half by 50 points in it, and they were just out on fire. And Lindisfarne had no answers in that first half.
Well, that's right. Really was some exhilarating rugby by Scots. They've got a big athletic front row, and they can distribute the ball with the offloading game and contact. And also their backline very fast and experienced. Young Aidan Hammond was at centre, and he's been in the team for 3 years, and he looked like he'd done some serious work in the gym during the summer. Certainly spent more time on TVNZ Les Mills than I did during lockdown. And the Paiano was just superb. I mean, really, he is a dazzling player. Lindisfarne made the catastrophic error of kicking the ball to him 3 times directly in centre field in the first half, and he broke through each time, and it basically led to a Scots try.
Wow, and so the game's tomorrow for day 2 of the Presbyterian Quad. 11 a.m. is St Andrews taking on Lindisfarne, and the final at 12:30 is Scots College taking on St Kitts. Your picks tomorrow, Adam.
a lot to watch for in that consolation playoff. What's interesting about the Lindisfarne team is the legacy, I guess, of the surnames. So a number of famous rugby playing old boys have passed through the gates of Lindisfarne College. Randall's son is in the team. There's a Timu. John Timu was at Lindisfarne, 92 tries in 55 games for the first 15. There's a Sia in the Lindisfarne side. Now, remember, Peter Sia played all those games for Avalon and Marist St. Pat's. Well, he's originally from Hastings, so I'm assuming that Sia is a relation. So look out for Lindisfarne to hang tough against St Andrews, who performance was below par on Wednesday, but they have an excellent loose forward trio. Will Stoddard, the number 8, and Torian Barnes, the New Zealand Secondary School's blindside, very good players, and they had a couple vibrant backs too. So St Andrews narrowly to win that one.
And of course, the final, Adam, Scots versus St Kitts. I think by looking at form, St Kitts probably should win that final tomorrow, but Scots will put up a decent fight.
Well, I think it's going to be a very high scoring final because St Kitts in recent times have had enormous forward packs. Their forward pack this time, big, but not the skyscrapers that rivaled the Sky Tower a few years ago out of that school. And so St Kitts will play a similar game to Scots. They'll look to involve Taili. Their first 5 was very prominent. But Scots, if they can pressure through their line-out, they've got a lot of tall timber in that facet. And if they can get Paiano involved, then it could be a close tussle.
Well, we'll be out there tomorrow, Adam, covering that game. And of course, Clark will show some highlights at the end of the Huddy Hui tonight of some of the cracker tries that were scored yesterday. Now, of course, round 4 of the Swindale Shield, we're out at Ngāti Tawa Domain as Paremata-Plimmerton take on Tawa. We're on Te Upoko or Te Ika this weekend. Be a fascinating game, Adam.
Absolutely. Tawa 5 points outside the top 4. They won their first game of the season last Saturday. And with the squad they've assembled at the start of the season, rather fancied their chances of making the semi-finals. So they will expect to beat Paremata-Plimmerton. But Paremata-Plimmerton promising against Upper Hutt, who were undefeated in the first 3 rounds of the competition and have motivation to improve. And it's going to be a real joy to be joined on Te Upoko o Te Ika, 11:61 a.m, the Itufano Footy Show on Saturday by Dion Waller, who won a Jubilee Cup as a coach with Tawa in 2013 and has tentacles in that area, given that he's lived there. So Dion Waller, Brad Hudson, and yours truly with the description of Paremata-Plimmerton and Tawa at 2:45 on a Saturday.
And Dion Waller, he's been a guest on the Huddy Hui last year as well. A fascinating man. Of course, other games, Huddo Boys and Oriental Rongotai. That'll be a big game, Adam. Who are you going on that one?
Well, that's a tough game to predict, Brad, because Oriental Rongotai have been in strong form this year. Huddo Boys Marist started terribly with a heavy loss to Marist St. Pat's, but they ran Old Boys University close and last weekend beat Avalon with several players away at the Manaya's wedding. What an occasion that would have been. Imagine the buffet bill. Anyhow, Ori's narrowly given. I understand they're hosting the game, Brad.
I believe so. Tribe has it as Huddy Old Boys is hosting it, but it must be Ori's. Johnsonville and Avalon. Johnsonville had the 1 win so far. They narrowly lost to Ori's last weekend. I expect them to win pretty comfortably against Avalon side that is trying hard, but it's been tough going for them after 3 rounds.
Johnsonville in good form this year. We saw them in round 2 against Upper Hutt. They created enough opportunities to win that game. Johnsonville, especially strong in the forwards, good scrum. That youngster from Paremata College on the tight head side, making a big impression. And Sam Wesley and Andrew Ellis out in the back should be too classy.
And of course, it's the Battle of Kilberty Park this weekend too. Marist St. Pat's taking on Paniki. Paniki, of course, narrowly lost to Batoni 2 weeks ago. 1 point, and also narrowly lost to Old Boys University. But they have 2 wins. Marist St. Pat's undefeated, and the form side of the competition. Expect Marist probably to take that one out.
It's the 100th celebration of Porniki versus Marist St. Pat's as a rivalry, so it's a special afternoon at Kilbirnie Park. Feel some sympathy for Porniki, a very good side this year, but a tough start. They had Old Boys University last Saturday and Petone the Saturday before that, so that's 2 top 4 sides from 2020. Greg Foy, Nalu Tafali, Pakai Turia, Nick Robinson, a number of excellent players, but they'll be hard-pressed to beat Marist St. Pat's, who have a points differential of better than positive 70, superbly led by young Tom Martin. And just a word of condolence and, I guess, gratitude to Marist St. Pat's for Namani Waka. Namani Waka was a 34-year-old Fijian behemoth who played 2 Jubilee Cup finals in 2015 and 2016 for the Reds. He went to France to seek payment for his very special talent. And unfortunately, this week he passed away of throat cancer at the despicably young age of 34. Namani was a regular for the Pacific Warriors Sevens team and a very popular personality at Evans Bay Park, and a very nice guy too. I didn't know Namani well, but I spoke to him on a couple of occasions. He was softly spoken and polite, and it's a dreadful tragedy that he has passed. So rest in peace, Namani, and kudos to our friends at Marist St. Pat's.
Yes, a very sad loss for Marist St. Pat's and Waka's family. We wish them all the best, and just a young age to pass away far too early. Also, our other games this weekend, Wellington taking on Old Boys University. Wellington really battled against Petone last week. Old Boys University should walk away with that one pretty comfortably.
Well, the Wellington captain, Ranui Birchett, stood up at the aftermatch at Petone and thanked the villagers for executing the Axemen strategy. If the Axemen can play like Petone did against them last weekend, who knows? An upset might be on the cards. Old Boys University looking very formidable, though. A handful of wins in a row, particularly strong up front, and it's hard to anticipate anything but a Billy Goats win here.
And over the hill in Wainuiomata taking on the undefeated Upper Hutt Rams.
Now, this is an interesting game. Upper Hutt have won 3 games, but they've only played the bottom half of last year's table, or at least the bottom third.
That's right.
And against Johnsonville, they struggled for long periods. Wainuiomata, they were competitive against Tawa at Lyndhurst Park last Saturday, but ultimately suppressed. The week before, they hung on gamely to beat Wellington 16-14. William Jones Park, a tricky place to win. Wainuiomata, perhaps with a little bit more assertiveness in the forwards. Upper Hutt will be looking to involve the Svensons and the Shrivers and their lively backs. I expect a close game here.
I expect so too, and I think Upper Hutt might just sneak over and win the game, but who knows? It could go either way.
I'm with Wainui here.
Yeah. So Petone Norths is the last game of round 4. Norths haven't only had the 1 win in the first 3 rounds. They've lost to Marist St. Pat's and Old Boys University. Of course, you've seen them in the first round, Adam. Petone going well. They've got some players back from injury. That will be another close game as well.
I think so. And Norths, who are 1-2 this year, in desperate need of a win. They look a shadow of the side they were last year, really, Brad. Petone, not at full strength, but showing plenty of heart. Mason Henry, terrific on the blind side last Saturday. Vince Arso flourishing at centre. Khan Green at first 5'8", looking very assured. North seems an unsettled side at the moment, so the Villagers I'm picking to win that game, bearing in mind that Petone lost the semi-final last year in the Jubilee Cup 53-22, and it was 41-3 at half-time, so there'll be no shortage of motivation for Petone. Big game, that one, but Petone to narrowly prevail.
And I think the Tony will narrowly prevail there too as well. Well, Adam, that wraps up the Huddy Hui for tonight. Of course, many thanks to our sponsor, Michael Pinfold and his plumbing company. Much appreciated. Who knows, Huddy Hui might get a Silver Lake deal. You never know. But Adam, great to have you on the show as always.
You're brilliant to have Michael Pinfold involved in the program. We really appreciate his contribution. And
that's the Huddy Hui, episode 20. Of course, it's our 21st next week. And we're going to finish our episode tonight with some highlights from day one of the Presbyterian quad tournament from yesterday at Scots College. Ciao for now.
Go, fella!